quick cut. Overtake the steering wheel. Control.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Nice and smooth. Get it all done all day long. Got a good feeling about today, guys.
Donnie Kite's gonna get through it all and score his first career win in the Saturday Night Racing League Cup Series. What a finish!
Too little, too late from behind, and Sebastian Marin, your first repeat top split winner of the qualifying series.
He knew it was just a matter of time when Hunter Sr. is victorious.
Josh Adams taking the win at Iowa. Juicy Spider Motorsports takes home the 1-2-3 finish.
Under the lights and under pressure. It all comes down to this at Daytona International Speedway. Tonight, the Simu Nation Porsche Cup finale reaches its climax on one of the most legendary stages in motorsport. After a season of hard-fought battles, heartbreak, controversy, and unforgettable moments, every lap now carries championship weight. The walls are close, the draft is everything. And one mistake in the Porsche Cup cars here at Daytona can end a title dream instantly. Drivers will have to balance aggression with survival through the high banks and the infield technical section, knowing that patience may win the war, but hesitation could lose the championship. This is where legends are made. One final race, one final chance. The Porsche Cup finale starts now at Daytona, brought to you by Simu Nation and our partners. Simu Nation's Porsche Cup Championship is powered by NOX Gaming. Shop for all major sim racing brands under one roof. NOX Gaming offers PC building services throughout Canada. And Wolf Sim Racing builds the high-end gear that makes the difference. Precision engineered dashboards and mods designed for ultimate performance. Don't just play the game, live it. This is going to be round 8 of 8 in Daytona. We've been to Mexico City back in January and run through pretty much every country. And now we head back to the USA, and it's a little bit tight and a little bit hectic in the championship standings. 28 points separates David Lemelo from Phil Bouchard for the lead of the championship. Craven Norris promptly in third in front of Jesse Mosey. Tommy Borg in fifth. Arnaud Genest in sixth. Antoine Landry in seventh. Antoine Lacharide, in eighth. And Anthony Landry in seventh. Patrick Archambault in ninth. And Guillaume Boyer in 10th. But it's all about P1 and P2 in the championship between the top 20. And we've got a great grid of drivers heading into our finale race. Let's take a look at the track guide. Here at Daytona Beach, Florida, it's 3.56 miles or 5.73 kilometers. Founded in 1959, the road course used in 1962 for sports car racing. 12 corners in total, 6 to the left, 6 to the right, and only 28 feet of elevation change, and all of that is happening pretty much throughout the high banking. Joining me in the broadcast booth on behalf of V-Speed is Jacob Lenke. Jacob, how are you feeling tonight, my good friend?
Well, it's a bit bittersweet. I'm glad to be here for this race. No better place to settle the championship than the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway. But at the same time, we're finishing out the championship. This is the final race, and it's all going to come down to the result at the end of the final 40 minutes here tonight.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. It is bittersweet. It is a great moment to crown a champion, but at the same time, we're unsure of what lays on the horizon. But we know what's on the horizon for sure is another great championship brought to you by Simu Nation. And we know that the crew is hard at work trying to prepare the next upcoming season. Right now, it's gonna be Phil Bouchard leading the charts in the number 73, and David Lamoureux close behind, but no cigar, with 3/10 of a gap separating him from Bouchard in P1.
Yep, and this is all just provisional. Everybody can pull that time back if they get the right toe along the high banks. We can probably follow along with one of our drivers here, but the thing that I want to point out is the points battle. 28 points separating Phil Bouchard and David Lamoureux. If Phil Bouchard finishes 4th or better at any point in the race, regardless of Lamoureux wins or not, he's got the championship sewn up. Lamoureux, however, if he wins, he needs Bouchard to finish 5th or worse, and if he doesn't win, he needs to finish 2nd to have any shot at the championship. So it's going to come down to whoever can execute the best and minimize their mistakes, and those two have been the most consistent all season.
And, you know, we do have another contender in the mix, though. Patrick Archambault has been no slouch in his own right, pilot of that 1-2-4. He's been running very well himself, and it's been a successful run for him throughout the championship, so let's not count out him. And also Jesse Mosley, the number 8. He's been the contender throughout this championship, or perhaps just hasn't been the most consistent, I would say. So his results don't show, I think, his true pace or skill that he has.
Yep, Mosley, having participated in every race thus far, still without a podium, but just because he's been showing up, he's been racking up those points, and he's solidly put himself in P4. Tommy Burke, the only one that can challenge for that at the moment. And Archambault, as you mentioned, ran the first 4 races of the season, 2 podiums in that time. Hasn't started a race since rounds 5 through 7. He was not present, but he is here for the finale, and he could throw a wrench in one of our championship hopefuls' plans tonight.
Definitely not out of contention for it to be tight and hectic in the championship, as we have 21 drivers taking to the grid tonight. It's great to see that up until the final checkered flag falls, that the drivers are willing to still lay it on the line and show up and show out to support Simu Nation. It's just a great sight to see, and more drivers typically will drop out, but not here, not this grid. We've just had a great showing, haven't we, Jacob?
Yes, indeed. Averaging about 20 cars per round, I would say, from the beginning to end. And it's not only is it great to have such a close battle between at least 2 drivers at the end here. It's not a complete runaway at the front, but this is, without a doubt, one of the best series that I have ever seen for just respectful racing. Yeah, they can chop it up every once in a while. We saw at Willow Springs, people were door banging, trying to get positions on positions. But at the end of the day, everybody's running their own race, trying to get to the end, and they've been extremely respectful about it.
I think it's one thing to fill a grid with just any old drivers. It's the caliber of drivers that we're seeing. here, show up and show out, right? That's what you're describing. It's just a high caliber level of skill and craft. You're absolutely right. We have seen them show up and get their elbows out, get a little argy-bargy, but for the most part, I mean, as you guys would say in the oval world, well, it's been green and clean for the most part, right, Jacob?
Yep, not a single full course caution. I'm sure that given the opportunity, some people would have liked it to have helped, offset some of those setbacks that they suffered from earlier in the season. Had a little bit of issues with wall contact and things like that, but outside, everything's just been clean and green. Like you said, it's everybody racing their own race and not just getting caught up in the battles with everyone else.
Just about 1 minute left in the session. Phil Bouchard's still at the top of the charts, but it's David Lamoureux who's just less than a tenth off the good. Let's see if he's got it on this lap. He's pushing hard. He's got a little help from a teammate behind, the 1-2-4 of Patrick Archambault. Maybe trying to give a little provisional help to the number 25 out in front to get that little extra toe on that lap. Or perhaps the plan was to push from behind. I just did commentary on a race of an oval, and Jacob, I never understood how important it is to be the car behind and literally push the car in front without touching. That's a big NASCAR thing, right?
Yes, it is. With oval racing in particular, you don't have a lot of the downforce that you see on these cars. Like you see the rear wing, all of these splitter and diffuser that you can see, all the carbon fiber paneling all over. You're just a single shell body that is just every time you go behind a car, they're displacing air. And if you get right up close to them, there's a cushion that forms, and you want to try and break that cushion to push them forward to be able to generate more speed, get a little more out of the car with the air movement that's around. But on the outside of that, if you're not past that cushion, you can pack that air and just generate that. You can generate the same amount of push, just propelling them forward. And it puts you at a little bit of a disadvantage as the car in front, because that air gap behind is what's going to get the driver that's behind you all the way to your bumper and perhaps even give them the momentum to pass you. And that's a big thing that we see on the big oval here at Daytona in particular with these drafting tracks.
You're absolutely right. You painted a very clear picture. It's this cushion of air that the drivers are trying to penetrate that is formed in this vortex behind the leading car. So if you think about it this way, there's air coming over the car, and then dramatically it drops down off of the end of the car and then creates this vortex, this turbulent air, right? Well, that creates the downforce. That creates the push into the ground that the car needs to get its downforce. When the car behind can get into that vortex basically and penetrate it, what's happening is that slipstream or that vortex now comes over the car behind and allows the car in front to go faster without even being touched. It's basically like taking the tailgate down in your pickup truck while you drive down the highway. You all of a sudden have less drag associated with you.
If it's like a great big extension to the rear wing, which probably would have helped Francis Theroux as he was going through the bus stop there, but he ended up losing it off of the curb as qualifying is now complete.
We're going to have a 40-minute race length, folks. 86 kph or 50 miles per hour for the pit road speed. Unlimited tire sets. The local yellows only. 100% fuel, so don't expect any pit stops from the crew tonight. Jacob, what are your predictions on the evening and overall for the championship? Do you have a favorite for Daytona?
In terms of favorites, I think that I am willing to go with the underdog. Give me David Lamoureux to win the race and the championship.
All right, you heard it there from Jacob Lenke himself. He's been watching this from the word go and has kept his finger on the pulse of the drivers. Jacob, let's check out the grid, shall we? Anthony Landry and Phil Bouchard line the first row. David Lamoureux and Arnaud Genest line the second. Kevin Norris and Patrick Archambault line the third, with Matthew Prudhomme and Jesse Mosley in the fourth. Fifth row belonging to Tommy Bork and Dominic Croteau.
Francis Fortin rolling off P11, Pierre-Etienne Laporte in P12, Guillaume Boyer in 13th, Olivier Longdoc in 14th, Valentino Ziganov in 15th, JF Lessard 16th, Francis Theroux in P17, Johan Morancy in 18th, JL Parent in 19th, Francis Trofal in 20th, and Sebastian Delage rounding out your 21-car field for the finale.
Amazing lineup of cars that we have, folks. Thank you very much for showing up. Thank you very much for participating, whether you're a driver or you're in the YouTube chat. Myers Racing 23 saying big draft equals big time. I think that's absolutely true here for the season finale. Going into it at Daytona International, it's just the 40-minute for race 8 of 8. And the next race coming up on the horizon.
This is different than what we've seen all season. Everybody taking the opportunity to get some heat in those tires before we get going. A pace car at the front of the field to pull into pit lane and let them go off on a rolling start. Every other race that we've seen has been a standing start. And this being the finale, it's understandable that they'd want to do something special. As you can see just how much the 25 is trying to get the heat in those tires to get that run off of the word go here.
If you have the ability to do so, why not warm up the tires, especially in these Porsche Cups, where it's imperative to generate heat in these tires on these opening laps. And while you have the pace car, let's do so. In preparation for next season, looking forward to crowning a champion here at Daytona. And it's green, green, green here for the final time under the lights at Daytona, folks.
Oh! Further back for the P7 position, there was a car that ended up breaking out of line, got some contact with the cars around them. That is not going to generate any friends that you might need further up. Anthony Landry taking the lead early on, Phil Bouchard tucking in behind. Everybody's starting to straighten out as they get into the middle sector.
Holy Toledo going into the Rodriguez International Horseshoe. 2x2x2. We go racing for the final time. The drivers aren't going to leave anything on the line tonight. We're going to go wheel to wheel battling, and it's all going to be settled here at Daytona. Unbelievable. It's still going to be the 166 battling with the 28. Let's take a look. That'll be Tommy Bork and Matthew Prudhomme battling it out as we go into turn 6 and turn 7 onto the high banking. We go, and then the 166 of Prudhomme goes round and gets clipped.
Bad hit for Olivier Longdoc, massive contact. I think that was a teammate that he ended up hitting in the 166, and that has taken both of those to a complete stop. They need to get going before the field gets back to them, and we're going to take another look at this.
Let's take another look and see what happened to Olivier Longdoc here. The 35 on the outside run. And is it just a situation of cold tires? No, he gets clipped in the collision there, and that will do it.
Mathieu Prudhomme, Olivier Longdoc, Jael Parent, and Jesse Mosley, another one of our favorites, all in the pit lane, having taken damage. I think Mosley actually may have left the session prior to the start. Either that or he did not take the start, but we are continuing to race. Nobody is nobody's relenting as of right now because everybody is still on track trying to get it done. Watching another battle further up, Guillaume Boyer trying to chase down the 69 of Dominic Cruteau. As another battle is shaping up, JF Lessard trying to chase down Francis Trofall, but Johan Morency driving right behind him.
So many battles to choose from right now because everybody is staying in these very tight-knit battle packs. You know, we have one from P1 all the way down to P7, basically, a combat train. And then we have the one from P8 all the way back to P13 and another train of cars. And they're going to all be using the slipstream advantage from the car in front to get a little push further advance. So Anthony Landry going to be the only driver to not be getting that advancement right now as we take a look here at Phil Bouchard, who is catching Landry right now. And Jacob, I think you know best, you know, what are the championship implications as they sit right now?
As it sits right now, I'm taking a look at the standings as they sit. Bouchard has it sewn up, and even more so if he's going to continue pushing Landry up at the front here. But if he loses it off a curb and loses a couple of positions, Lamoureux has the potential to overtake him. But right now, it is Phil Bouchard's championship to lose with the bird in hand, as we see Lamoureux trying for a move on Jeunesse just behind.
Oh, there's a hard-fought move from the number 25. And I just have a feeling like a little bit more respect was given from Arnaud Jeunesse there, as he knew the championship contention was right in his sights, that he wanted the front seat in the house to an epic battle that was about to brew, and it's about to boil over, and we're getting ready to go through the dog leg now, turn 4, and then into the west horseshoe of turn 5. This all leads us down to turn 6 and turn 7 onto the high banking. That's where we're going to really see the gap close down. David Lamoureux trying to close down on Phil Bouchard. Arnaud Jeunesse patiently sitting behind and biding his time.
All 4 of our drivers in the top 4 right now with at least one win on the season. Anthony Landry won the opening round at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. Arnaud Jeunesse won the Red Bull Ring. That was an eventful race for everybody involved. David Lamoureux got his first career win, or first season win at Zandvoort, and Phil Bouchard, our most recent winner, took it home at Willow Springs to set up the battle for the championship. And we are going to see Lamoureux and Bouchard tonight, as we have all season. I did the math earlier. Phil Bouchard has a 2.2 average finish, Lamoureux with a 2.8, and both of those guys not going to want to give up as we're watching Archambault make his way around Kevin Norris to try and challenge for that top 5.
The 1-2-4 of Patrick Archambault, definitely chopping it up like this is a NASCAR race rather than a Porsche Carrera Cup race, that's for sure. These 992.2s with their inline 6 motors, not exactly the same ones that you'd see running ovals out here typically, but out here they're doing their darndest. Top speeds coming in at around 230, it looks like, as the drivers get to the banking.
Everybody's still rounding their way through the horseshoes in the infield right now. Going to make their way to the exit onto the high banks. The top 4 still tucked in real close with each other, but everybody's wanting to catch up behind as we see Jeunesse take that more narrow line to try and tuck up behind Lamoureux to get the draft off of the back of that car to continue pulling himself forward toward the bus stop.
And you can see how dramatic the banking is from that gyro camera angle, where you can just see the car pitched up at darn near 30 degrees on its end there. Arnaud Jeunesse hitting the top speed before getting to the Le Mans chicane, newly renamed in partnership with Le Mans.
And that's going from 170 plus miles an hour all the way down into the 80s to back it down and get over those curves without throwing yourself over it. As we can see Bouchard using that NASCAR technique all the way up on the splitter or his splitter all the way under the diffuser of Landry in front, trying to push him to go wide into the first turn. Doesn't make it, but he's got a car to his inside, and that is Arnaud Genest out of nowhere. That opens up a hole for Lamoureux to try and take a position from Bouchard on the outside.
Double trouble here for the number 73 of Bouchard. A little bump in the rear end. Holy Toledo, the 3-1-2 gets a little touch in the derriere, but he'll manage to keep it calm, cool, and collected. The number 25 now touching the 73, and it's all popping off here into the finale.
We're not even 10 minutes into the race yet, and there's already fireworks. David Lamoureux with multiple contacts. Bouchard having gotten into the back of Genest, who made a desperation move in through turn 1 and got all that momentum to move around. Everybody's going to tuck up behind with each other down toward the bus stop as well, while Anthony Landry starts to run away to the tune of 1.3 seconds.
And he's probably smacking his lips right now with joy as the battle continues behind. And I'm sure he's thrilled to have the pressure off. And there goes an off from Genest. Is that enough for Phil Bouchard to try to make a move going down in towards turn 1? Let's take a look again at how far back David Lamoureux is right now. The number 25 challenging as well, pushing from behind into the clean air is the 73, and getting into that cushion again is the 25 of Lamoureux, who steps out surprisingly, and that's a surprising move. Maybe you can explain what's going on there with that decision making.
So he is trying to go with the car that's got the most momentum right now. Lamoureux opting to go behind Bouchard. After Bouchard got the draft off of Genest, he had a couple extra miles an hour through the front stretch, and he is able to bypass Genest, as was Bouchard. But I believe Bouchard has a little bit of nose damage on the front of that Porsche. That's going to hamper his ability to generate those runs in the future, and that's going to put Lamoureux up to a position to try and get past him again if he's slow going through the big bank turns with the remaining 30 minutes here. But Genest is not letting up. He is not happy that he lost those positions, and he is trying to get them back right now.
Absolutely. More battles continue to brew behind, as Valentin Oziganov having a battle with Guilherme Boyer. And I believe that's P8 and P9 getting settled in right now. And it is just amazing that going into the finale, we still have battles brewing on track, and the championship, we're just as confused about it as the fans are, and I'm sure the drivers are just hoping for their best results tonight because they're unsure of how the math is going to play out, right, Jacob?
Yep, there's only 2 cars mathematically eligible for winning the championship right now, and it's the ones that we've been following from the beginning of the race. David Lamoureux behind Phil Bouchard as they run right now. But we're watching as Genest made a run up to the inside. That's a mistake from the 124 of Archambault. Actually, that's not a mistake from Archambault. He's trying to make the move on Genest as he sends it in there. They're side by side into one.
In through one, side by side no longer, as they run nose to tail, single file running. And who is this? That's Kevin Norris trying to get into the mix as well. And here comes the 774, trying to challenge for as many positions as he can get his hands on. Valentin Oziganov having his bout with Guilherme Boyer, and Boyer not willing to relent this position just yet, and into the dogleg side by side. Someone's got to give there, and it looks like it will be the 203 of Boyer to relinquish that position for now.
Very wisely backed it off in there. Otherwise, he was going to go into the grass, or he was going to send both himself and Oziganov into the grass. 34 opting to hold that line, rotate it all the way around, take that outside to generate more momentum as they get onto the banking. But the cars behind are starting to tuck in a little bit. Boyer just behind, and they got Dominic Courteau in the draft to round out the top 10 just behind him.
go hop on board with Ozganov, excuse me. Coming down into the Le Mans chicane, side by side, it'll be tight and crazy as Boyer just barely gets a nose ahead. I think the 34 might be a little unhappy with that defense. It might give a little flashy of the headlights into the high banking.
I wouldn't even bother because you're going to generate a run and try to make a move on the outside going into turn 1. That locks up the 69 right behind the 203, almost door banging as they get down the front stretch toward the start-finish line, side by side, continuing another side by side just behind him, as well as Courteau sends it in, trying to get that position. The 662 of Pierre Laporte trying to put himself into this competition, but Courteau and side by side with Ozganov, with Boyer just starting to step out a little bit over the curb and contact Ozganov. No, that was, oh, what a massive hit. And he goes up across the track. Ozganov got bumped and slammed through the grass, ended up having to spin it around to try and avoid contact there, and that has lost him a lot of time.
Unfortunate turn of events there, and it just looked like the car ahead just bounced and clattered over the curb and lost control there for just a fraction of a second even, and resulted in contact with himself and Ozganov. Unfortunately, he goes back down into P13 and loses about 5 seconds worth of time. Up ahead here, let's take a look at the lead battle. It's Landry Bouchard, Lamoureux right now being the 1, 2, 3. And Lamoureux right now is definitely challenging for Bouchard's position.
And you saw what Bouchard did on the exit through the corner, through turn 2, which is traditionally the exit of turn 2 on the big oval. He took a different line than everybody else. You saw everybody else up next to the wall. He took it more inside to try and break that draft that was generating for Lamoureux, as Lamoureux decided to try and take a look through the outside, through the front stretch, opted against it, but he's still tucked in right behind the 73 to chase him down, and they have been slowly eating away at Landry's lead.
Slowly eating away at Landry's lead. Let's take a look at the lap times last time around. They were lapping in the 1:45.5s, Landry Bouchard, but 1:45.0 for Lamoureux. So he's a little bit faster, using that slipstream to his advantage. And oh no, it might be all popping off further back, as we have Boyer and Courteau going wheel to wheel, but also Pierre Laporte having a battle with Francis Fortin, the number 23.
Just ahead of those, Guillaume Boyer still holding on to that 8th spot. He is 5 spots up right now. Not your biggest mover in the race. Francis Theroux also having moved up 5 spots in the 12th position. Sebastien Delage, just with the virtue of starting this race, has put himself up 7 spots from that last place position because of just the attrition. As you can see, everybody in this group trying to get back tucked into each other's draft. The 69 of Courteau opting to try and break the one from Fortin behind to catch up to Boyer on the exit of the bus stop and give himself a better run toward that position for P8, with Fortin trying to break himself into that P9 from Courteau.
Let's see if he's got the overspeed on the number 69. Takes the high side on the banking. Let's see if this will be advantageous for the run down and towards the first corner. And I don't think so, unless you can get a switchback engaged, and goes to the inside line and barges his way through. The number 23 finds a way through, but I think he put his foot in the door there.
I don't think that was I don't think it was a dirty move, but I don't think it was warranted either. You could have very easily taken him through this middle sector here. You had the speed to get around him in the first place, but ended up putting his nose in there just to say that he had the space given and didn't give Courteau enough time to react. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody takes a look at that later.
we'll definitely have to have the stewards take a look at that later, and we'll keep them busy, especially after tonight's race is full of action from green to checkered. So far, we've been running just about halfway through this race so far. It's just about as exciting as I expected it to be going into the finale. Kevin Norris and Tommy Burke going after it here. Number 28 chases down the 774 and the purple and yellow livery out ahead. Closing down the gap, Steadfast here and now is the number 28 on the 774. And it looks like it's definitely going to be on, but the high side or the low side, Jacob, which one do you choose going down into one?
Going down into one, I'm going to take the outside lane because it gives you more room to maneuver around. If that car ends up squeezing out in front, you're able to tuck in behind them, and you know that you're going to want to keep in behind them on the backstretch, and that could just... That's the good thing about this track. You can make a move one place, cede the position, and then put yourself in a position to get twice as much distance later on in the lap. So I think it's better to be behind in this early stage of the run, but we are almost halfway through this race, and that battle up at the front still has not cooled off at all, as has this battle. Bouchard, looking at him right now, still with that nose damage, having been passed by Lamoureux. Bouchard needs to hold on to these positions because he is still in grasp of the championship, but those cars just behind him are going to put that in jeopardy if he does get passed up. Lamoureux, however, regardless of how close Bouchard is, needs to get up to Landry to win that race. If Bouchard finishes just one spot behind, he is going to be out of luck for this championship, and it is tight between the top five right now.
Cannot wait to see what the final results have for us at the end of the night to find out who's come out on top to be the inaugural Porsche Cup champion, brought to you by Simu Nation and our partners at NOX Gaming and Wolf Sim Racing. Without them, this would not be possible. If you're looking for a PC or PC part building services, look no further than NOX Gaming in Canada. If you're looking to get the next level gear that you need for your sim racing setup, well, we have the solution there as well. Wolf Sim Racing has the accessories to take your rig from stage 1 to stage 5.
As we're continuing to take a look at this battle here, something else that we were talking about with the conversation we had with the slipstream and draft of how those vortexes are generated with the cars, you note that nose damage that Bouchard has on the front of his car. If he is the trailing car tucked up behind the car in front, that damage is negated. There's no air on that nose at all, and that is what's the rest of his car is just generating that downforce. There's no penalty to having that damage on his car, but if he's got a gap to Lamoureux like he does just ahead, it's going to act like a little bit of a parachute because there's more surface area and more just odd angles that air is catching and just pulling Gineste further toward him. As long as he keeps away from that car in front, he might be in trouble in the long runs here.
We'll have to see how it all pans out, but looking for the battle for the lead right now. It's definitely come down. It was sitting at around 0.4 of a second at the beginning of this lap, but the TNR of Landry is under threat right now from David Lamoureux. Now to the outside line, gives a little bit of a pinch to the number 39. I think the move's going to be done before we even get down towards turn 1. Is the 73 going to make this 3 wide, though, coming down in towards the first corner? It'll be the 39 trying to defend, gets a little bit of a wiggle there as he goes wide, but the door is ajar for Phil Bouchard, and the number 73 looking behind, waiting for a mistake from David Lamoureux up ahead. Will it be anybody's mistake? I think it is, but that is for Archambault, the 1-2-4 as we go 3 wide coming out of the International Horseshoe.
Arnaud Gineste made a move to the inside of Bouchard, now side by side with Lamoureux for that second spot. Lamoureux able to get that position on the inside of the kink there, and able to pull it in, but Jeunesse sends it back to the inside, not able to get the run to generate on the outside. 25 of Lamoureux ends up falling behind with Jeunesse pulling ahead for second. Once again, Bouchard falling back to fourth now.
Great action here through the infield section, but it all goes the way of Arnaud Jeunesse, who definitely was not on my bingo card tonight for a podium, I will admit. Comes through and surprises us all with his clear-cut aggression and, I would just say, dominance in consistency. Last lap around a 44.9, his best lap 44.89. So yeah, I think his consistency is just proving, well, consistent.
Regardless of how consistent he is, David Lamoureux knows exactly what he needs to do, and that is get around the 312, put himself in a position to catch up to the 39 of Landry once again, and put that 73 as many cars behind him as he can if he wants any shot at the championship, as he's side by side with Jeunesse through the front stretch, going down into turn one, keeping that outside once again. It didn't work out for him before. Is he going to be able to generate the run on exit now? He slides a little bit, able to correct it, but that puts Bouchard in a position to put himself to the inside and pass.
And the 73 of Bouchard is trying to find the long way around the outside, but a late break move from the number 25 of Lamoureux forces the situation into a side-by-side through the International Horseshoe. And then through the dog leg, the drivers smartly choose to go single file line. Anthony Landry again escapes with his life there, as he's now 1.5 in the lead.
If Lamoureux wants any shot at this championship, he needs to work with Jeunesse to generate the run, get himself back up to Landry, and get this whole pack running in a single file line so that he can have that opportunity to put himself in the lead for the win. With the last 15 minutes here, I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but there's no quit in him. He's been trying all season to try and put himself in a good position to do this, and this is going to be his last gasp with 15 minutes left in the Simu Nation Porsche Cup Series. Watching a battle further back, Ozhiganov having recovered from that off earlier, trying to fight with Dominic Cruteau for the 11th spot.
Ozhiganov a little further back from Cruteau than I think he'd like, and just outside the top 10, but we have a little bit of bump drafting going on between Kevin Norris and Tommy Burke. 28 giving a little shove to a friend in need. 774 looks like he could use a little bit more top speed, and, well, Tommy there is giving the helping hand that he needs down the back stretch. What a good friend.
I think it's less of a friend and more of a benefit, with Tommy Burke wanting to pull to the back of Norris to generate the run for both of them so they can try and get back up to the back of that pack. But they're so far behind right now, I don't think it's going to matter. But there has been a pass. Dominic Cruteau on the outside. That looks like Pierre-Etienne Laporte putting himself in the top 10. Ozhiganov just behind. These three battling under a blanket as Laporte goes over the curbs. Everybody able to keep it straight as they go through the dog leg and into the back half of the track.
I thought the 34 was going to get involved there for a second and unfortunately get their nose chopped off, but it wasn't so. It was just a poor camera angle. But no, Ozhiganov really surprising me right now and closing down this gap. 46.8 last lap around compared to the 46.9s from Dominic Cruteau and Pierre Laporte up ahead. So he is catching and working his way forward. Arnaud Jeunesse closing down the gap on Lamoureux up ahead. Phil Bouchard here in turn. And it's 2/10 forward, 2/10 back for Arnaud Jeunesse.
It's important to note that Lamoureux got that move done to get past Jeunesse. Bouchard still tucked in behind, and they need to generate that run to get back up to Landry for Lamoureux to have any shot at it. But I think Jeunesse is going to try and make another move, pushing the back of the 25, linked up with that underneath that spoiler, trying to get a run to the outside now. Ends up pulling it to the outside, doesn't have the run. Lamoureux tucking back into the inside, and he is going to try and chase down Landry, but everybody else is going to be tailing him close behind as we get into the middle sector.
This is exactly what we paid to see going into the finale. More side-by-side action between Dominic Croteau and Pierre Laporte. Across the stripe we go. And now it'll be the 662 to the inside line as the 69 is going to try to get a switch back. A little over-under action, but Pierre occupies the real estate needed and blocks that from happening. Ozgano further back, just waiting for his opportunity to strike. I think he sees the battle forming up ahead and is waiting for a mistake or a boiling point in this battle.
If there is a bump and an off from Laporte or Croteau, Ozhiganov is going to benefit. He wants to try and break himself back into the top 10 as we see a move to the inside of the Croteau. The 69 on the outside now shuffled out. Ozhiganov got a little bit of a squirrely exit there, but he's still got the position to the outside of this next turner. End up trying to switch it back, bump drafting with the 69 onto the banks, and he is going to put himself at a disadvantage, but he is going to try and pull that draft back on the bottom side through the backstretch.
On to Jeunesse, who's going to give a little bit of a kiss there to Lamoureux and get inside the rear gearbox there.
I don't think we show that on TV. That was a little too close for comfort with the gearboxes. Arnaud Jeunesse just right behind Lamoureux there. Everybody's still single file, and they're not catching Landry. That's the important part. Landry's still out to a 1.6 second lead. They need that run that they had earlier. They were able to catch him from about a second and a half back, but that run is just not generating. They need Landry to make a slip for Lamoureux to even have a remote shot at this one. Jeunesse still keeping himself in front of Bouchard. That is Lamoureux's saving grace. If he keeps himself in front of Bouchard and Bouchard miraculously ends up falling into the clutches of Kevin Norris or another car behind because of that nose damage, Lamoureux could still have a shot at this championship. But he's got 10 minutes to hope for all of that to happen and catch Landry at the same time.
It's a lot of work to do to catch up to a guy like Anthony Landry. 45.3 his last time around. Oh, he is lapping with the best of them right now. Fast laps coming in 144.9 for Lamoureux, 144.8 for Jeunesse. So Jeunesse right now with the pace and momentum. Check out back here, Johan Morency. We haven't mentioned him all night long. He's got Francis Thrafal in front of him. The 734 occupying a real estate that I think Morency would like to occupy, and that's going to be P15 on the charts to finish out the season.
Yeah, but this is a battle between the two cars that are at the back on the lead lap right now. You saw a little bit of a bobble through Trelfall onto the backstretch there. That's going to open up another drafting lane for Morency to try and catch that air underneath. As we got another battle up front, Arnaud Jeunesse being bypassed by Phil Bouchard, who's trying to get that position back from Lamoureux as they have closed up on Landry to the tune of 0.4 of a second, at least through the middle sector. But once we get onto the big turns, it's going to close up a little bit more. As we saw a little bit of a bobble through Bouchard, Jeunesse tucking up behind him to try and get the position as they go through the middle sector and onto the big corners further on.
The 73, the 312, and the 25 keep exchanging blows. And I think this is a heavyweight bout, to say the least, because Fraser and Holyfield seem to be in the ring tonight for the Simu Nation team. 774 of Kevin Norris and Tommy Bork here as well, duking it out. And this is going to be their battle for 5th and 6th. We were looking at them earlier, and the 28 was pushing along Kevin Norris, and I think they were trying to catch up to the 312 of Arnaud Jeunesse, but unable to do so. They're separated by 6 seconds now. The writing's on the wall in the 28. Well, the gloves are off as he peeks to the inside, coming down into Le Mans chicane.
You've got to fight for every position that you can, with this being the last race in the season. Going to get those points, going to get that final position in the championship settled and over and done with. Kevin Norris in the last position of the top 5. Tommy Burke just behind has been fighting with this guy all night to try and get the position. Great run by Burke, starting to push the 774 through the tri-oval.
Definitely a good run into the tri-oval. But now can he follow up, coming down into turn 1? A little bit of a wiggle there for Norris. That might open the door for the 28. But now there's only a single line that's opening. And I think Tommy backs out of that one. The 28 knows when the jig is up. And that wasn't a move that was on. Think about self-preservation a little bit when it comes to moves, especially at Daytona, especially when a championship is on the line. You want to make high percentage moves to be there at the checkered flag, where, like we said in the intro, one mistake can ruin everything for your run.
At the same time, if you're David Lamoureux or Phil Bouchard, you got the option to use some of those low percentage moves to put yourself in a position to keep yourself in front. Phil Bouchard still running in P3. Lamoureux running in P2, catching the 39 of Anthony Landry, which is his best shot to try and keep himself alive in this one. Almost half a second cut down to the lead of Landry over Lamoureux. Bouchard still tucked in, with Jeunesse just close behind, nagging all 3 of them.
And it's definitely coming to a boiling point as we approach the final 5, as we still don't know who's going to come out on top. And again, it could all come down to one incident going into the final laps. No cautions will be called other than local yellow, so no saving grace should anything pop off. Francis Fortin and the Advanced Sim Racing team chasing down, I believe that'll be his teammate up ahead of Guillaume Boyer in the 203. Kevin Overs and Tommy Burke going after it into turn 1 and turn 2. And a little bit wide for the 2.8. Loses out the traction underneath his feet.
Burke still trying to fight with the 774 of Kevin Norris. These guys are the ones that are fighting for that last spot in the top 5. 8.5 seconds back from the lead, but up at the front, everything is tightened up. Lamoureux has caught Landry. Bouchard is still tucked behind Lamoureux. Jeunesse, all 3 of them right behind each other. As the sun has set, it is nighttime, lights are on, everybody running under a blanket. The top 4 almost within a second of each other as we round into the final 5 minutes of the race.
Going into the final 5, it's still undecided who can come out on top, as the first 4 are separated by just 2 seconds overall. Not even 2 seconds, it's 1 second back to P1 to P4. That's how tight this grid is. And all these drivers staying tight-knit with each other. Francis Thrafall under threat from Johan Morency, who seemingly has a little bit of a run coming through the infield section. Late on the brakes for the 194 as he challenges the 734 into a mistake, but the Syndicate driver can't do so. The Sim Magic team seems to be well equipped to challenge anything that Johan Morency can throw at him.
And we've got a battle for the lead, passing back and forth. Landry and Lamoureux through the front stretch. Lamoureux out to the outside, gets bumped out by Landry. Bouchard up the inside, trying to get the position, tucks in, puts himself back in second, but Lamoureux's going to challenge as they get into the narrow section. Landry having stretched it back out to the lead, but Bouchard trying to get back to him. And Jeunesse bumps the 25 for good measure to try and get into those podium spots.
73 now leads the 25 of Lamoureux. Arnaud Jeunesse definitely waiting for his time to strike, but he may have already had his opportunity to be in P2. And now P2 and P3 might run away with it, as it's occupied by Phil Bouchard and David Lamoureux. Anthony Landry was under threat there for a little while. I don't think he seemed too perturbed by the situation. He's now 7 tenths back in the lead, and think again, he looks in his rearview mirror, sees Phil Bouchard and David Lamoureux fighting, and thinks, well, that's perfect for me.
Not entirely so, because these three have the benefit of draft. They're close enough to Landry where they're generating a little bit of that draft off of him, and they got a draft from each other, so they're all pushing each other through the long straightaways and into the corners. Lamoureux trying to go to the outside of Bouchard, hasn't gotten himself alongside just yet, still tucking up. That's just catching air on the front of both of those cars. He's going side by side, got a nose to the door of Bouchard as we've got 3 minutes to go, side by side for the championship between those two. Ball is still in Bouchard's court as Lamoureux tucks to the inside.
Tucks to the inside, the 25 finds a door ajar, and the 73 with a huge slide, but able to recover the side-by-side through the infield section. Who's going to be latest on the brakes? The bold and the bravest. The 25 of Lamoureux is in front of Phil Bouchard in the 73.
Everybody haven't straightened it out. Lamoureux trying to catch Landry, but it may be too little too late. 9/10 of a second out to the lead is Landry. Bouchard still tucked right up behind Lamoureux. Gineste in this one as well, playing the wild card position to try and get himself up back into the podium spots, just sitting on the outside looking in, watching as the two championship contenders fight it out as they get back onto the high banks.
1, 2, 3, all there in a row. The 73 tries to break the slipstream from the 3-1-2 of Gineste, but I think it's too little too late. The charge is on. He's definitely there. But most importantly, Anthony Landry is running away with the 1 second lead right now in front of Lamoureux. And the more these three continue to battle, the more it solidifies Anthony Landry's position in history as the Daytona champion.
They can cut it down as much as they want, but they need a mistake from Landry right here to try and get back to him. Phil Bouchard still in the slipstream of David Lamoureux. Lamoureux still trying to bill it back to Landry. 7.5 of a second, 1 minute and 20 seconds left in the season, and Lamoureux is slowly closing that gap to Landry just ahead. Gineste having backed off a little bit to try and get these two some room to run.
1 to go. Barney waves the white flag for us for the final time. The Simu Nation Porsche Cup Sprint coming to a close here. And Landry Lamoureux and Phil Bouchard are going to leave it all on the table as they have all championship season long. From Mexico City to the streets of Long Beach, it's been an amazing championship and a pleasure to take you from green to checkered flag. Jacob, take it away for the final lap.
Lamoureux still trying to chase down Landry for that win. He's going to have to put a godsend of a run together as they get back onto the high banks. Bouchard fighting as hard as he can to keep Gineste in front. All Bouchard has to do is keep the position, and he is going to have the run to the inside from Gineste. He tucks in just in front. Gineste is going to have a run off to the bus stop. Lamoureux closing in fast, almost half of a second from the 25 all the way back to the back bumper of the 59. Half a second is closed up. Gineste trying to look to the outside of Bouchard. Bouchard, if he stays in the top four, he's going to have that championship locked up. Landry keeping it clean through the bus stop. Lamoureux getting a good exit as well, trying to close up to the back bumper of the 39 once again. The 73 still in position. Gineste not able to generate that run, tucks to the outside, keeps it in. Landry tucking to the bottom of the double yellow line. Bouchard trying to get to the back bumper, but it's not enough. The checkered flag is out. Anthony Landry bookends the season with a win in Mexico City and a win at Daytona. But Phil Bouchard is your champion for the Simu Nation Sprint Porsche Cup Championship.
Amazing battles out here on track. Phil Bouchard coming home in third position. Anthony Landry, though, is the one who's crowned champion at Daytona underneath the lights. Led us for 21 of these brutal laps.
It came down to the wire from the beginning to end. Anthony Landry able to get his second win on the season, but the story coming in and the story coming out is Phil Bouchard, Mr. Consistent himself, Only one race all season where he didn't finish on the podium, and he has won the championship.
Just absolutely amazing run for everybody. But Phil Bouchard coming out on top, getting it done just when he needed to. Absolutely amazing. Let's take a look at the results, shall we? It was Landry in first, Lamoureux in second, Phil Bouchard in third, Arnaud Jeunesse, Tommy Bourque, Caven Norris, Arjun Ball, Fortin, Boyer, and Laporte rounding out the top 10.
Ziganov finishes P11, having gained 4 spots. Cruteau in P12, Francis Theroux in 13th, Johan Morency in 14th, Francis Trelfall and Sebastien Delat sharing the biggest mover award in 15th and 16th. First car laps down is Jesse Mosley. JF Lassard finishes 18th. Mathieu Prudhomme, Olivier Languedoc, and JL Perrin after having gotten caught in that early wreck. Round out your 21 car field for the finale.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff here. Brought to you by Simu Nation, folks. And we'll get the drivers loaded up and ready to go for their interviews here in just a few moments. Brought to you by V-Speed. We'll get them into the V-Speed booth and talk to our championship winner if they're available here in just a good second. And looking at the waiting room, I don't see them available just yet. But how do you feel, Jacob, now that the season's come to a close?
Like I said before, Sagar, and my opinion has not changed. It is bittersweet. We saw great racing all throughout the season, all 8 rounds, including and especially tonight, with the curveball having thrown in with the high banks and the long straightaways, able to generate those drafting runs. And it was not a disappointment. It really did come all the way down to the final minutes to see who would be crowned a championship, and that is the greatest thing you could ever ask for in a series.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. It was just from green to checkered flag, just one of the most phenomenal races you could have ever asked for. And it looks like we do have Phil Bouchard ready to rock. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and talk to the man in P3 for the end of the race, but came out with the championship win at the end of the day. Phil Bouchard, how do you feel to come out on top for the Simu Nation Porsche Cup sprint race?
It feels good. It was a tough battle here with David and Anthony and Arnaud, so I'm just happy to have a race that stays clean up until the end.
Absolutely, and especially at Daytona, drafting was everything. The drafting battles seemed relentless. The three of you would not relent. At any point in time, did you think about trying to work together to catch up to Landry? Or was it no holds bars? You guys were fighting for every position tonight.
Actually, I didn't want him to catch the Landry because the thing is, if he had more position ahead of me, I would have a chance to lose the championship. So I was just trying to keep the gap good enough so we can draft, but so he didn't have a chance to catch up with him. So that was the strategy, and I think I pulled it off pretty good.
Absolutely. It was a breathtaking championship from the word go. Do you have any favorite moments from these races that we've had so far, the 8-round championship? Or is it all just a blur as fast as these races have come and gone?
No, there's a few moments. I remember my flying jump at Zandvoort when I lost the car. that was a bad moment, but yeah, there was a lot of good moments battling with Anthony at the early stages of the season, and then at later stage with David, it was close. We had some good door-to-door battles, and it stayed clean. So it's good to have trust in the guy you're racing with.
Absolutely, it's very true, and it's hard to come by. But with a great grid like this, who could ask for anything better? Phil Bouchard, anybody you'd like to shout out, or anybody you'd like to thank on the championship win tonight?
Absolutely. I want to shout out David. It was an amazing season, as well as Anthony, Arnaud, all the guys at Advanced Sim Racing. and the guys that are running the Simu Nation as well. Thank you for the series.
And thank you to you, Phil Bouchard, for supporting Simu Nation, showing up and showing out every single week and showing us how it's done. Have a great night, and as always, make sure you stay safe out there.
Absolutely. See you guys.
Jacob, on that, closing thoughts for the season, closing thoughts for the championship, and a penny for your thoughts while we're at it.
I think you mentioned a few times that this was the inaugural season for this championship. And if the racing continues the way that I have seen over the past 7 races that I have been here, it is going to go for a long time because it is some of the cleanest, high-octane stuff that I have seen since I've been involved in sim racing. It is nothing but the best show that you could have possibly asked for. I am very happy to have had this opportunity to cover it with you and for Simu Nation, and I wish them all the best in the future going forward, and I wish that we could have a lot more full grids throughout the rest of this year.
Absolutely. The only thing that I know for sure is that we're going to watch the continued success of the Simu Nation grid grow and grow week after week and time after time. On behalf of Jacob Lenke, on behalf of Bradley Dalton, on behalf of eSpeed, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for staying tuned. I'm your host, Sagar Bakshi, taking you from green to checkered flag. But all good things have to come to an end, and so shall this. Have a great night, and as always, make sure you stay safe out there. Goodbye for now.